Guys, so here is day 2 of 3.2. We're just going to be talking about a few proofs today, so we'll do some practice with the proofs tomorrow in class. So here we go. Let's look at our fill in the missing steps of our proof. So again, always we start with our given, and we have to mark what's given on our picture. It says that F is parallel to G. Line F is parallel to line G. So I need to make sure that I mark my lines parallel. I'm trying to prove that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So first things first, they give us that F is parallel to G. So I know that that is my given, because that's the reason. And then they say that angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Well, angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 because why? What kind of angle pair are they? They are vertical angles, and we can say vertical angles are congruent. Okay. Then they say that angle 3 is congruent to angle 2. So we know this is congruent here. Okay. And so there we can say that angle 3 is congruent to angle 2 because of the corresponding angles theorem. Okay. And then we have that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. So we can say angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 by the transitive. Oops. Property of equality. Okay. But we could also say that they're congruent because they are alternate exterior angles as well. So alternate exterior angles theorem. Okay, and theorem is abbreviated THM. Let's try our next proof. First, we know that line F is parallel to line G because that's my given, so I have to mark that. And then in my proof, I have that F is parallel to G, so I write that as my given. Okay. And then they say that angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. So angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. Well, what kind of angle pairs are those? That is a corresponding angles pair. So we have the corresponding angles postulate. Okay. And then they say that angle 6 is congruent to angle 7. So 6 is congruent to angle 7. And that is because they are vertical angles, and vertical angles are congruent. Or we could just say the vertical angles theorem. Okay. Well, and then I have that 2 is congruent to 7. And if I look here, I have that 2 is congruent to 6, 6 is congruent to 7, so then 2 is congruent to 7, which gives me my transitive property. Okay. All right, so this time it's a little different. They don't want us to fill in the blanks. They want us to put the proof in logical order. But before we do anything, like we always do, we always have to label our picture. So it gives us that line L is parallel to line N. So line L is parallel to line N. And I also know that angle 9 is congruent to angle 3. So that's what they tell me. Okay, angle 9 is congruent to angle 3. And now they want us to put these in logical order. Well, the first piece we always look for is our given, because it always goes first. So right here, my given. So my first step is step 3. Okay. Then it says we need to figure out, do we want to do angle 3 is congruent to angle 6? Do we want to do angle 9 is congruent to angle 6? But if we look, remember our prove is always our last statement. So we have angle 9 is congruent to angle 6. That's statement 1. So we know it has to be last because that's our proof, which means that step 2 has to be our second step, but it says that angle 3 is congruent to angle 6 because they are alternate interior angles. Okay, good. All right, so let's do this again. We're putting it in logical order, but before we start anything, we have to mark our picture. We know that L is parallel to N. So that's my given. So whenever I look for my given, I know that has to be my first step. So right here is my given, so step 3 is my first step. And again, my prove is always my last step. So if I look through here and try to find that, that's step 1. So that is going to be my last step. So now I need to go through these other steps. Well, let's see. I want to say that they're congruent. So I'm trying to get the 2 and 7 add up to be 180. So 2 and 7 add up to be 180. What I have left are angle 4 is congruent to angle 7, and that is because of corresponding angles theorem. I have that angle 4 and angle 7 are equal. I have measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 4 are 180. Okay. So now I want to get to angle 2 and angle 7. Well, I think I'm going to start with angle 4 is congruent to angle 7 because I know what? I know that they are corresponding angles. So I'm going to start with that step next. So that would be step 2. Well, remember when I say they're congruent, then I can say that their measures are equal. So that would be step 5. And then my last step would be that angle 2 plus angle 4 are a linear pair, so they're supplementary. So that would be 4, step 4. And since this is the next step, I know that 4 and 7 are equal. So all they did here was they took this measure of angle 7 and put it in for angle 4, which is how they got this last step. Measure of angle 2 plus measure of angle 7 equals 180 degrees.